Party governorship candidate in Lagos State, Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivour, says he's committed to running a government built on accountability and transparency to ensure rapid infrastructural development in Lagos. Rhodes-Vivour, who participated in the Lagos governorship debate, promised that his administration would ensure a Lagos that works, declaring that it was time to take Lagos from those who he said had continued to put the state in their pockets. He further said it was time for a new Lagos, where Lagosians would go to hospitals and get treated and would not spend hours in traffic. Joining us now is Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivour, Labour Party governorship candidate in Lagos State. Good morning, Mr. Rhodes-Vivour.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
Well, thank you for joining us. You were at the platform.
Yes.
The debate by Pastor Yemade's group.
Yes.
Just before you joined us, we were talking to Olajide Adediran, the candidate of the People's Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Now, one point you made at that debate, you said you will ban Agbero system in Lagos.
Yeah.
That is touts, thugs, the managers of motor parks in Lagos.
Yes.
Are you aware that the NURTW and the RTEAN, Road Transporters Employers Association of Nigeria, they are recognized by law.
Yes.
And they are major stakeholders in the politics of Lagos.
They are.
So how are you going to say you will ban them, you will stop them?
That's why there needs to be...
Want to create an employment crisis?
No. When I say... that quote is taken out of context.
Okay.
I actually laid out how we're going to improve employability skills of this youth. While you're talking about the organized system, there are thousands of young men that are standing on the road as enforcers for all of these organizations. Drug addiction is involved. A lot of criminality is involved.
Some of them live in Banana Island, though. They live in Ikoyo.
Well, that's where all that is where the 120 billion that they are generating is clearly going to, but it's not being accountable for, right? And the people that are direct enforcers of these things are not benefiting from it. Imagine a young man on the road, he's running after buses, he gets hit. What medical insurance is there for him? He cannot earn a living again. That's why the focus is on domiciling employable skills acquisition at local governments. And then investing and incentivizing companies, especially at the local government level, to hire graduates, or not graduates in the education sense of the word, but people that go through these programs to do the work in those local governments. Right? So we are incentivizing and training at the same time to be able to create employment. The idea is to create an alternative means of income before we now enforce by law taking off all these young men off our streets, because there's a bigger problem. We already have 2 million children out of school. The more young people are seeing this glorified culture, because it's proliferating. In 2019, when I contested for Senate, the number of Agberos on the road are times 10 now, what I've seen now going on the field and visiting. And you have a lot of children that are looking up to their brother, their cousins on the road, standing all day. They are not going to finish school, right? So we need to re-engineer. You have bus drivers complaining about this chokehold on them. And you have a situation where we've normalized monkey they walk, baboon they chop culture in Lagos State. And that needs to change. We need to automate the collection of these things. We need to be able to be accountable for it. We need to be able to say, this is the money that's coming here. This is what is going to be used for. Right? Even if it's the unions, you have healthcare insurance, you have some insurance or some funding to allow your children to go to school. Things that can actually uplift. Not we're just collecting money and we don't know where these monies are going. So that is a system that we need to get rid of.
Okay, so it's talking about systems and a re-engineering of the state. As an architect, you referred a number of times to the architecture of the state itself, in terms of the roads, how you tackle transport, traffic. And this is a big problem for many Lagosians, which many previous governments have said they were going to fix, but none has been successful, at least thus far. I'd like you to share your ideas with us, particularly where you talk about inner roads and local government, strengthening the local government. I'd like to hear your plans on that.
Thank you so much for that question. First of all, let's understand Lagos State is run based on tokenism and politics. Buhari, our president, came to commission a train. I don't know who used the blue line this morning. I don't know if Lagosians have started using the blue line. But there is an idea that they've done a train. I even thought it was 16 kilometers. I only found out yesterday that it's only 13 kilometers that they've done. Blue Line was supposed to extend all the way to Badagry, but then it's been cut short and even cut shorter. And it took a while.
No, it's in phases. And
In
that
phases,
much was made clear.
Yes.
A first phase, a second phase.
When they took out 1.2 billion for that project, they did not say they were doing it in phases. It cost 450 million to do even longer train in Ethiopia, right? And we've been on this for over 13, 14 years. Whatever excuse they want to give, right? The idea is Lagos State has been run on tokenism for too long. And we need to actually start to do the work. And Lagos State itself does not have to base its development on the purse strings of the state. We can open up and create an enabling environment for the private sector to get involved in a lot of these projects. Because Lagos State is feasible. It's a state that can actually do projects that will pay off itself. So that's foundation on one end. The other end, let's look at the Fourth Mainland Bridge. They're budgeting about $2.2 billion to do that. When you look at the design that they've come, this is another white elephant project. They're going to take off about between 800 to 1,000 homes on the way. It's very inefficient. And also the outcome of it, you don't really gain much compared to, let's take this idea. And this is an idea for expanding the Lagos East. We're going to have a coastal road that's supposed to already exist from VI all the way down to Bejuleki. On the other side of Lagoon, we have another coastal road linking Ikorodu all the way to Epe. And we are joining these roads at the shortest distance. None of the distance between that is 6 kilometers. So effectively, we create a belt road, right? That is fantastic, efficient design that will not cost up to 2.2 billion. And will connect Lagos in portions, making it a lot more efficient. And guess what? Northern Foreshore, all of those parts can now be opened up for development. But if you just do Ikorodu like that, it doesn't have that same effect because we need to open up the Lagos East and the Lagos West. So these are some ideas. For us, for inner roads, we need to make our local governments a lot more robust. The state government is looking so inefficient and it shows a lack of aptitude because they're trying to do so much. We need to have visionary local government chairmen, potential governors, I keep emphasizing this, potential governors as local government chairmen that can sort out our inner roads. And funds need to be given to local government. It's appalling that the State Assembly is still rejecting local government autonomy in Lagos State. You go to every local government, I mean, maybe Lekki is a bit, or maybe Ikoyi, but even still, you go to Apapa, you go to Ajeromi, Feludu, every local government, the inner roads are a complete disgrace, right? So we're going to set up a benchmark for the quality of roads that must be done. The life expectancy of those roads must be tied into the contractor's payment for final payment. And we are going to benchmark the prices for projects to World Bank benchmarks so that you must meet that based on plus or minus 20%. You must meet that benchmark. So we have to work with that. So, there's too much controversy about the cost of things.
The first question I'll ask is state capture. What would you do about state capture? The second question I'll ask is on waste management. What would you do about waste management? And third one, flooding.
Thank you. State capture is a system where politicians have controlled the resources of an entire state for the interest of their cronies and their people. For us, we're going to open up this entire government system in terms of its accounting, right? And we're going to publish it. It's not like FY where you have to come and apply. No. On a quarterly basis, using infographics, we're going to break it down so people have access to it, right? And we'll take pride in doing this. My pride will be to say the World Bank benchmark for per kilometer of road is this. We got you a better deal. That's the kind of government I want to offer. And in setting that kind of thing up, you cannot effectively have state capture because people that are going to get jobs have to give it to us at the best price and the best quality. So that's one way of doing it. And be open and transparent in every facet of our government. And because of the kind of government we want to run, which is one of creating platforms, government does not need to buy and build everything. Government can create an enabling environment and platforms for private sector people to get into. For instance, we need about 70,000 new buses in Lagos State, right, to replace all these downfalls. First, we can do a deal with the company to actually start to assemble here, and then we can open it to the people. Listen, you can go on this website and invest in a bus on this bus, on a seat on this bus. Every month you get paid this amount. And based on that, you raise capital and buy roads. So we need to go away from this idea of the government must do everything to platforms, because that way we can create development at a very fast rate. So that's the first thing about state capture. Waste management. Waste management. For me, I did this on my thesis at MIT, and something I'm very passionate about. We need to separate our waste from the homes. And we need to domicile waste management and waste collection to the local government, right? Secondly, we must depoliticize the entire process. You don't need to know a person in APC or the ruling party to participate in this thing. Again, creating platforms. You have the infrastructure, we inspect, you can start to perform and work directly and plug in to the system. Also, we need to ensure, and then the places where it might not be feasible for companies to go to, riverine communities, for instance, the amount of people, the density might not be profitable for a private enterprise, then the state can step in, right? So the state steps in to cover the lapses or cover places where there's no profitability. But in the generality of it, the private sector must get involved seamlessly. And then flooding. So for me, I said it during the debates that Lagos State has not implemented a proper wetland protection policy. That's the first thing that needs to happen.
But they're building on the wetlands. That's the problem.
That's the problem. So if you don't have a wetland policy that can save and make that preserved, and you're sand filling, the water must be displaced. It must go somewhere, right? So for instance now, across the Third Mainland Bridge, they're starting to sand fill. Lagos mainland, by next year, is going to flood. They will say it's climate crisis. But really, it's irresponsible sand filling of your wetlands and of your general coastal region that is causing these things. So that is one. We have to have a proper wetland policy.
So will you break down those homes that have been built on wetlands already?
We're going to look into it. And if there's a possibility of designing for that developer to actually design a proper outlay for water to get out of the city, then that will be the penalty. If you refuse to do that, then demolition might have to happen.
Okay, fine. I need a clarification before I ask you a question, which is political. And it's as follows. You said the Fourth Mainland Bridge is a white elephant project.
Yes.
Did you say so?
Yes, I did.
So does that mean you are going to cancel this project? 844 billion. We're told that three companies have already been chosen. A preferred bidder has been identified, and that contract will be awarded by March 2022. 38-kilometer stretch.
Yes.
So won't that be money down the drain if you cancel it? So that's the clarification. The question. It's not enough to just, say governorship race. In fact, Lagos is such a complex place. How about the House of Assembly? There is a battle also for that House of Assembly that is currently dominated by the APC.
Yes.
So what plans do you have to make sure that if you want to win, you also have control of the State House of Assembly? Otherwise, that could be a problem.
So the first point, when we come into government, we're going to review that entire contract. If an idea is not feasible, we must find a way to get out of it. Right? 38 kilometers, sorry. 38. If we have six 6-kilometer bridges each, that is 6 kilometers. That's 36 kilometers, right? And we connected Lagos in such a much more integrated way. So I'm not going to have the chain of my predecessors still hooked around my neck if I want to move Lagos forward. Any way I can create a much more efficient system, I'll pursue it to the end. In relation to the State Assembly, we have a full host of State Assembly members that are contesting under the Labour Party. We went through the process of the courts, right? We got an order for INEC to open the polls, the gateway, or the portal for us to submit the names of our candidates, which we have done. I'm sure if you look around Lagos, there are some places you see House of Assembly candidates popping up and campaigning and all that. Same thing with the House of Rep and even the Senate. So we have a full array of candidates and we're supporting them. We're working together. We're going Labour Party all the way. This is not a Labour Party presidential, something else along the way. We want an entire host, because that's the only way that I stand a chance in able to get these ideas to come to fruition and reality.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about your plans, your campaigns. Some people have said that you entered the race quite late in terms of the gubernatorial race. How do you view your chances of being the next governor of Lagos State? That's one. And then number two, I'd like you to evaluate INEC's process. The elections are on the 11th of March. People have complained, particularly in Lagos State, of the experiences at getting their PVCs. And you've canvassed, in fact, the last election, you had the World Malaria Day campaign where you said anyone who had their PVCs would get national health insurance. So what is your party doing on your evaluation of the PVC collection in the state?
Okay, so in terms of starting, I went through a process in the PDP. I had to start again in the Labour Party, and then because it's a delayed process, you have to go INEC timetable. So that's why it might seem that way. But at the same time, we're still on plan. The whole idea is about creating our strategy has always been a surge strategy. Myself, and even you're going to see all that through between now and the elections. I met with the state rec for INEC. I have to say I'm very impressed. There generally seems to be an attempt to have a free and fair election. And even in situations where people are complaining, when you hear what actually happened on ground, you can actually see why that might have happened. At the same time, while that is at the state level, at the lower level, at the local government level, there seems to have been some compromise by the INEC staff, especially in places like Etiosa and Okota and parts of Ojo. And we actually visited Surulere for one, and we noticed that the INEC staff that were there had been replaced, and things have started to flow again freely. They're going to do a mock election on the 4th of February, I believe, and people should be engaged and come out and participate. For me as well, I think we also need to talk about violence in Lagos State. Governor Sanwo-Olu did not attend the debate based on violence that he thought for some reason. I feel that, because that's a major worry, and why I said I'm impressed is that the state rec of INEC is former DSS. So in conversation with him, there was a lot of talk about data aggregation, about security, and I appreciated that a lot. And coming down to talking about security in Lagos State, you see, when a governor, a chief security officer, that has superintended a lot of violence in Lagos State. I mean, just last week, one of our followers was macheted on his head when he was pasting posters, right? I did not say I'm not going to come and debate because of that. NSARS happened. We're still asking till today who gave the order. I did not say I'm not going to debate because of that. So I feel it's an insult to Lagosians not to have heard from their chief security officer and their governor. And then on the other hand, you have people glamorizing thuggery in elections, right? We see a video of people shooting, and we can identify the people in that video. But what good thing that came out of that is the need for surveillance, and surveillance that people can access, because that video shed so much light, and we need technology like that in Lagos State.
Just a quick fact check. There's actually a law, put in place as regards the wetland policy, but it's not been implemented.
It's not been implemented. That's what I said. Yeah, it's not been implemented.
Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivour, gubernatorial candidate of the Labour Party, Lagos State. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.